Have you ever been so proud of yourself, so ready to celebrate a moment you earned with sweat, tears, and sleepless nights, only to look into the crowd and realize the two people who should have been there weren't? Not late. Not delayed. Not stuck in traffic. Just not coming. That was my graduation day. The day I collapsed. The day everything broke. The day everything began. The moment that should have been perfect. All around me, families screamed names, held flowers, waved banners. I should have felt proud. I should have felt complete. I should have felt loved. Instead, while everyone else scanned the crowd with excitement, I scanned it with growing dread. I kept searching for them. My mother's bright red hair. My father's tall frame. Their matching, "That's our girl," shirts they promised they'd wear. Nothing. Not even a shadow. Not even a text. Not even a missed call. My hands shook. My heart sank. But I kept smiling through the pain. Maybe they're parking, I whispered to myself. Maybe they're stuck. Maybe something came up. The ceremony dragged on. Students cheered with their families. Mothers cried. Fathers shouted with pride. And me? My chest tightened with every name called. It felt like being slowly erased. The collapse. Then, it happened. My name was called. I stood. My legs trembled. I forced myself forward. People clapped politely, the generic kind. The "we don't know her, but okay" kind. My vision blurred. I reached out to take my diploma. And the world tilted sideways. Suddenly I was on the ground. Voices blurred. Footsteps rushed. Hands touched my shoulders. Someone shouted. "Call the nurse." My chest burned. My lungs felt punched. The exhaustion of 4 years, working 2 jobs, studying all night, carrying myself alone, had finally taken its toll. I passed out. The hospital room, and the lie. When I woke up hours later, and 4 was in my arm. Nurses whispered outside my curtain. "Poor thing," one said. "No family came with her?" "None," the other replied. Their pity stabbed me harder than any illness could. Moments later, the doctor walked in. "Stress collapse," he said gently. "Exhaustion, dehydration, severe fatigue." Then, "Do you want us to call your parents?" I took a shaky breath. "Already did," I whispered. "They said they were on their way." That was a lie. A stupid, pathetic lie. I said it because I couldn't face the reality. My parents didn't show up. Not for my biggest achievement. Not for my collapse. Not for me. And the reason? I wish it was complicated. It wasn't. They didn't care. Not enough. Maybe they never did. When they finally called. I was discharged the next morning. No call. No text. No concern. Nothing. Until later that evening. At 9:47 p.m. My mother called. Not to ask how I was. Not to apologize. Not to check if I survived the collapse they didn't know about. She called for one reason. "Hey, honey," she chirped, "your dad and I were wondering if you could send us $600. We're a little short this month. Just until payday. Just until payday." I stared at the phone. I had worked multiple jobs to stay afloat. I had skipped meals. I had sacrificed everything. And they wanted money. I said nothing. Mom sighed dramatically. "Hello? Why are you quiet? You know we depend on you sometimes." Her words echoed in my skull. Depend on you. Depend on you. Depend on you. Not support. Not love. Not show up. Depend. That's what I was to them. A wallet. A backup plan. A convenience. Not a child. Not a daughter. Not a priority. The final straw. Where were you today? I whispered. A short silence. Then she said, "Oh, that. We were tired. And your dad had a poker night. We figured you wouldn't mind." Wouldn't mind. I collapsed on stage. And they didn't care enough to come. Not even to pretend. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. "Did you know I went to the hospital?" I asked quietly. She laughed. Actually laughed. "What? Over what? Nerves?" "Stop being dramatic." "Nerves? Dramatic?" I felt something snap inside me so loudly I almost heard it. I collapsed. I was unconscious. I woke up alone. She went silent. Then, unbelievably, she said, "Well, accidents happen. Anyway, about that $600. And that was it. The click. The shift. The death of the old version of me. The version that tried. The version that cared. The version that blindly loved people who never showed up." A cold calmness flooded me. "No," I said. She paused. "What?" "No," I repeated. "No more money." She scoffed. "You're joking. You always help us." "No. I don't. I used to. Not anymore." Her voice instantly turned venomous. "You ungrateful little, after everything we did for you." I laughed. And the irony tasted sweet. "You mean everything I did for you?" She hissed. "Your father will be furious." "Then let him be. You would abandon your own parents?" My voice went soft. Sharp. Dangerous. "You left me at my graduation. You left me at the hospital. You've left me out of your life for years." Silence. Then she whispered the sentence that revealed everything about who they really were. "We need your money." And I said the words I should have said years ago. "I need parents. You chose not to be that. So now I choose not to save you." Her voice exploded through the phone. "You will regret this." But she had no idea. No idea the chain reaction she just triggered. No idea what was coming next. No idea that saying no wasn't the ending. It was the beginning. Because just 3 days later, my parents showed up at my door. Not to apologize. Not to take responsibility. Not to check on my health. They came begging. Crying. Desperate. And they brought news that turned everything upside down. News that forced me to make a choice more painful than anything before. News that would define the rest of this story. Have you ever had someone show up at your door not because they love you? Not because they care. But because they suddenly realize they need something from you? Something big? Something urgent? Something they can't get without you? That's exactly what happened 3 days after I told my parents no, for the first time in my life. The knock at my door. It was early. Too early. 6:22 a.m. The kind of time when nobody visits unless something is wrong, or they want something desperately. I was half asleep when the pounding began. 3 loud knocks. Then 5. Then a frantic, uneven set of slaps against the door like someone was panicking outside. I threw on a hoodie and opened the door. And there they were. My mother. My father. Standing on my doorstep for the first time in almost a year. Not a single text. Not a single visit. Not a single check-in. Until now. My mother burst into tears the moment she saw me, the dramatic, theatrical kind she loved to perform. My father stood stiff beside her, eyes puffy, jaw clenched. For a brief moment, a very small, pathetic moment, my heart ached. Not for them. For the little girl inside me who used to wait for her parents to come home. Who used to pray they'd be proud. Who used to believe their love was somewhere underneath their neglect. But then the reality hit me again. They didn't show up when I graduated. They didn't show up when I collapsed. They didn't show up at the hospital. They showed up now. And there was only one reason they ever showed up anywhere. Need. We need to talk. My mother clutched her bag dramatically. Sweetheart, she sniffed. Please, let us in. Her voice trembled like she expected me to fall into her arms. My father cleared his throat. It's important. I leaned against the doorframe. Cold. Calm. Detached in a way I never thought I could be around them. What do you want? My mother flinched at my tone. What do we want? She gasped. We're your parents. I said nothing. Because parents don't vanish. Parents don't ignore your achievements. Parents don't leave you collapsed on the ground alone. Parents show up. They didn't. My father sighed. Please. This isn't the place. Let us inside. I didn't move. If you have something to say, I said quietly, say it here. They exchanged a look. A look that told me everything I needed to know. They didn't come to apologize. They came because they were cornered. Because they needed something. Because they had no other choice. My mother exhaled shakily and said, We're in trouble. There it was. The truth. She continued. We owe money. A lot. Your father's business. My father snapped. Don't say it out here. I crossed my arms. I told you I can't help you anymore. My mother's voice went high and desperate. But you have to. We're drowning. We could lose the house. I almost laughed. The house they loved more than me. The house they spent years renovating while I worked nights. The house where they threw parties, buying drinks they couldn't afford. While I paid my own tuition. While I lived in a tiny room with peeling wallpaper. While I skipped meals quietly. And they never asked why. I shook my head. I'm sorry. But no. My mother's face twisted. Are you really going to let us be homeless? She shrieked. My father stepped forward, voice controlled but stern. This is not a joke. This is serious. I know it's serious, I said. But it's not my responsibility. My mother's jaw dropped. We're your parents. Who weren't parents to me. That shut them both up. Tears welled again in my mother's eyes, real ones this time, not her usual performance. Please, just help us this once. I shook my head again. No. My father's hands clenched into fists. You ungrateful. Stop, I said sharply. And for the first time in my life. He stopped. Both of them froze. My voice had changed. I wasn't the scared kid begging for scraps of affection. I wasn't the exhausted student hoping they'd show up. I wasn't the daughter who kept giving. I was someone new. Someone done. The confession they didn't want to make. My mother looked around, making sure no neighbors could hear. We didn't just lose money, she said. We owe people. My father's jaw tightened. We made some loans, he muttered. Loans? I repeated. From who? They exchanged another nervous look. My father finally muttered. People who expect payment. Quickly. My stomach dropped. Not banks. Not agencies. People. Dangerous ones. How much? I asked. My father swallowed. 40,000. I blinked. 40,000. My mother grabbed my arm. We didn't know it would get this bad. Yes, you did, I said. You decided to gamble with money you didn't have. Her face hardened. We're your family. No, I replied softly. Family shows up. She choked on her own breath. My father growled. If you don't help us, we could lose everything. I stared at him. You already lost me. His face went red. You think you're better than us? Because you graduated? I collapsed, I snapped. You didn't even know. He blinked. What? I took a step forward. I passed out on stage. Silence. I woke up in a hospital alone. More silence. Not once, I whispered, did either of you ask where I was? My mother's lip trembled. We didn't know. You didn't care. That landed like a punch. My father looked away. And I saw something new in his eyes. Shame. Real shame. For maybe the first time in his life. The real reason they came. Finally, after a long stretch of silence, my mother spoke. But her tone had changed. It's not just the money, she whispered. We need you for something else. I stiffened. What? She hesitated. Then said the sentence that revealed the true reason they came. We need you to co-sign a loan. Everything inside me went cold. A loan? I repeated. Yes, my father said. The bank won't approve us. They said we need someone younger, employed, stable. Responsible, I whispered. He nodded stiffly. Yes. And you thought of me. My mother wiped her eyes. You're our last chance. I stared at them. Two people who gave me life, but never love. Two people who didn't show up when I collapsed. Two people who only came when they needed a signature. Not a hug. Not forgiveness. A signature. A debt in my name. I realized then. Love wasn't the reason they came. Fear was. Fear of losing their lifestyle. Fear of losing their home. Fear of the consequences of their own actions. Not fear of losing me. Because in their eyes, they already had the choice. I stayed quiet for almost a full minute. My mother sobbed. My father paced. The sky above us grew brighter as the sun rose, lighting their faces, their desperation naked and undeniable. Please, my mother whispered. We won't survive without you. I took a deep breath. And said. No. My father stepped forward. You don't understand. I do, I cut in. I understand perfectly. I looked at them clearly, the way I should have years ago. You want my future to fix your past. My mother's sob turned into a gasp. My father froze completely. You didn't come here for me, I said. You came because the bank said no, and the loan shark said soon. And you think I'm your safety net? My mother whispered. You are. I stepped back. No, I said softly. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your wallet. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your solution. She broke down again. Then, what are you? I swallowed hard. Finally ready to answer. I'm your daughter. And you never treated me like one. And then. I closed the door. Slowly. Quietly. With their muffled cries still echoing outside. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. But it wasn't the end. Not even close. Because hours later, I got a phone call. A phone call that changed everything I believed about them. A call that revealed a secret they had been hiding for years. Something dark. Something shocking. Something that made me rethink my entire childhood. Have you ever received a phone call that didn't just surprise you? Didn't just shock you? But rearranged everything you thought you knew about your life? A call that takes your hurt, your confusion, your unanswered questions, and suddenly makes all of it make sense. That's the call I got. The call that finally revealed why my parents didn't show up. Why they needed me so desperately. Why they were always disappearing when I needed them most. And why I spent my entire childhood feeling like a burden instead of a daughter. The phone call that changed everything. It came at 4:58 p.m. I had just finished a shift at my part-time job and was heating leftover noodles when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally I ignore those. This time, I answered. Hello? A hesitant voice replied. Is this Lena? Yes, I said cautiously. This is Nurse Hart. From St. Augustine's Medical Center. My heart jumped. What? Why? Is something wrong? Silence. A breath. Then. It's about your parents. My fingers went numb. Are they okay? Another long pause. They're not hurt, she said. But, something has happened. Something you need to know. I swallowed hard. Go on. The nurse's voice dropped to a sympathetic whisper. Your parents didn't come to your graduation because they were already at the hospital. My world froze. What? Why? What happened? They were brought in that morning, she explained. Not because of injury. Because of withdrawal complications. Everything went blurry. Withdrawal? You mean, drugs? I whispered. No, she said gently. Not drugs. Then she said the word that shattered every memory I had. Alcohol. A cold wave ran down my spine. Alcohol? Withdrawal? My parents? The ones who partied every weekend. The ones who laughed too loudly. The ones who blamed me for not understanding their stress. The ones who always seemed off, moody, unpredictable. Suddenly, everything made sense. Everything. The secret I never knew. The nurse continued. They told us not to contact you. They said their daughter was busy and didn't need to worry. I gripped the counter. They told me they didn't come because they were tired, I whispered. The nurse sighed softly. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but they lied. My chest tightened. They were here for 8 hours. Detoxing. Shaking. Sweating. Yelling. Crying. We stabilized them, but they refused to stay. My throat burned. And then? I whispered. They checked out. Said they had family business. My skin crawled. Family business. They must have checked out just before they came to my apartment. When they stood on my doorstep begging for money. They weren't just desperate. They were withdrawal desperate. The shaking. The sweating. The frantic tone. The morning visit. The explosive emotion. It wasn't just fear of losing their house. It was addiction. Years of addiction. Hidden behind parties, celebrations, poker nights, winding down. They weren't busy. They weren't tired. They weren't careless. They were addicted. And I, their daughter, had been paying for it without knowing. My college tuition. My rent. Their bills. Their emergencies. Their accidents. Their unexpected expenses. All of it. Funding their addiction. Without my knowledge. Without my consent. Without a single ounce of parental responsibility. The flashbacks hit me hard. Suddenly everything clicked. Every time they didn't show up. Every time they forgot something important. Every time my father got angry out of nowhere. Every time my mother cried and blamed me. Every lost wallet. Every unpaid bill. Every please don't tell anyone. You owe us. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't bad parenting. It was addiction masquerading as parenting. My entire childhood. My entire life. Rearranged itself in front of me. They weren't functioning adults. They were functioning addicts. And I was the child keeping them afloat. The nurse's final words. Nurse Hart hesitated. There's something else I think you should know. My hand tightened around the counter until my knuckles whitened. What? When your parents were admitted, she whispered, they kept saying. Don't call her. She'll be mad. She'll leave us. My jaw clenched. They knew, I whispered. They always knew. That you were the responsible one, the nurse said gently. Yes. They knew. My breath shook. They used me. She didn't deny it. Yes. A tear slipped down my cheek, but it didn't burn. It felt like release. Like truth finally stepping out of the shadows. The nurse's voice softened even more. They're back home now. But they're in a dangerous cycle. If they don't get treatment, something could happen. My heart squeezed, deeply, painfully. I know, I whispered. I've known for a long time. Except I didn't know. Not the truth. Not the addiction. I only knew the pain. But now, I knew the source. I'm sorry you found out this way, the nurse said. They need help. But, they have to want it. I nodded slowly, wiping a tear. Thank you, I whispered. For telling me. We hung up. And then the silence in my apartment sounded different. Not empty. Clear. This wasn't about money. And it never had been. This was about survival, theirs. And mine. The choice that would define everything. I sank onto the couch and held my head. Memories crashed like waves. Them forgetting my birthdays. Them canceling school plays. Them spending grocery money on parties. Them blaming me for their fights. Them depending on me financially as a teenager. Them disappearing for hours. Them waking up hungover and screaming. Them laughing while I cried. Them ignoring me at the hospital. Them missing my graduation. It wasn't bad parenting. It was addiction. And now they were drowning in consequences, consequences they created. But here was the real question. Was it my job to save them? To pull them out? To sign their loans? To pay their debts? To sacrifice my life for theirs? Or was it finally time to break the cycle? To step away? To protect myself? I knew what the old me would have done. The old me would have run to them. Begged them to get help. Paid the debt. Signed the loan. Taken the burden. Destroyed herself in the process. But the new me? The me who collapsed at graduation with no one there? The me who woke up alone in a hospital? The me who survived without them? She didn't owe them anything. But the decision didn't feel simple. It felt brutal. Complicated. Heart-wrenching. Because I didn't want them to die. I didn't want them to lose everything. But I also didn't want to lose myself. And then, as if the universe wanted to answer for me, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. From my father. A single message. We need you tonight. It's urgent. Please. I stared at it. My heart pounded. Tonight? Why tonight? What happened? What went wrong? What were they hiding now? My palms grew sweaty. Was it fear? Was it guilt? Was it manipulation? I didn't know. But I did know one thing. Whatever was waiting for me that night would change everything. Forever. Have you ever felt your heart beating so hard, so loud, that it drowned out every other sound around you? That was me reading my father's text. We need you tonight. It's urgent. Please. Urgent. Please. 2 words they rarely used unless they were cornered. 2 words that, in the past, would have sent me running to fix everything. But I wasn't that version of me anymore. Still, something in the tone felt different. Not manipulative. Not demanding. Desperate. And not the usual kind. It felt real. So for the first time in days, I decided to go. Not because I wanted to save them. Not because I felt guilt. Not because I owed them anything. But because something inside me whispered. This is the moment that will decide everything. The drive home. As I drove toward their house, my stomach clenched. This house, my childhood home, was both comfort and trauma wrapped into one. The place where I laughed as a kid. The place where I learned to hide as a teen. The place where I waited for parents who never showed up. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light flickered, either dying or ignored. The lawn was untrimmed. The mailbox hung crooked. The windows were dark. It didn't look like a home. It looked like a place people gave up on. I took a breath and walked toward the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. My father stood there. And I barely recognized him. His eyes were sunken. His hair unwashed. His shirt wrinkled. His hands shaking slightly. Not from anger. Withdrawal. Real withdrawal. Something inside me softened, not pity, not sympathy. Just recognition of human fragility. He stepped aside. Come in. I entered. The house smelled like stale air and spilled alcohol. Dirty dishes piled in the sink. An overturned glass near the couch. Bills scattered across the coffee table. And then I saw my mother. Sitting on the couch. Head in her hands. Crying softly. She looked up. Her eyes red. Her makeup smudged. Her body trembling. Sweetheart, she whispered. You came. I didn't move closer. What's going on? My father closed the door. And the truth spilled out. The real reason they called me. We got a final notice today, he said. For what? I asked. He handed me a crumpled envelope. I opened it. It wasn't a bill. It wasn't a loan threat. It wasn't an eviction. It was worse. It was a court summons. For failure to repay private loans. Illegal financial agreements. Property lien violations. And an outstanding civil complaint filed against them. My eyes widened. What is this? My mother began crying harder. We didn't mean for it to get this bad. We thought we could manage. We thought we could fix it before. Before what? I snapped. Before dragging me into it? Before destroying my future? Before letting everything collapse like they did on my graduation day? My father held his head. We were stupid. You were addicts, I corrected, voice steady. And you didn't get help. He swallowed. We didn't want you to know. That was your first mistake, I said coldly. Pretending everything was fine. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. Not guilt. Regret. Lena, he muttered, if we don't settle this debt, they'll take the house. I almost laughed. The house? The house you barely lived in sober? The house I worked double shifts to keep the lights on in when you two partied? My mother sobbed. Please don't talk like that. We're your parents. Parents show up, I said again. You never did. My father gripped the back of the couch. We know, he whispered. We know we failed you. We know we weren't there. We know you deserved better. We know we messed up every chance you gave us. My breath caught. No excuses. No yelling. No deflection. Just truth. My mother lifted her head, tears streaking down her cheeks. I know we hurt you, she whispered. And I can't undo it. But this situation, we're scared. Truly scared. Her voice cracked. We need help. Those words hit like a punch. Because suddenly I wasn't seeing the selfish people who ignored me. I was seeing two broken adults who never learned how to heal. Two people drowning in addiction. Two people terrified to face their consequences. Two people who loved their comfort more than their responsibility. And they were asking me, the child they neglected, to save them. Not because they deserved saving, but because I was the only one who could. The first answer I gave them. I took a long breath. I'm not co-signing anything. My father closed his eyes. My mother sobbed harder. You don't get it, she cried. We'll lose everything. You lost everything when you lost me, I said quietly. She grabbed my sleeve. I didn't know you collapsed, she said desperately. I didn't know you were in the hospital. We didn't know. You didn't ask, I whispered. That shut her down instantly. She looked away. Because that was the truth. They never asked. Not once. Not ever. The turning point, and the twist. My father finally sank into the armchair. There's one more thing, he said quietly. The real reason we asked you to come tonight. My stomach tightened. What? He exchanged a look with my mother. She nodded through her tears. Then he looked at me. And said the sentence that changed everything. We're going to lose custody of your little brother. I froze. Completely. What? I whispered. My mother covered her face. He's only 12, she sobbed. And they told us if we don't get stable, if we don't get help, if we don't fix this debt, child services might take him. My heart twisted violently. My brother. The one innocent part of my broken family. The one person I still loved without hesitation. The one person I would die for. And suddenly everything clicked. Everything. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't just about debt. This wasn't just about addiction. This was about him. His safety. His future. His home. If they lost the house, he'd lose stability. If they got evicted, he'd get taken. If they spiraled deeper, he'd get swallowed with them. This wasn't just their consequence. It was his. My parents didn't come for my forgiveness. They came for his survival. My voice softened. What do you want from me? I whispered. My father looked up at me, eyes red. We need you to take him. I blinked. Take him? My mother sobbed. Temporarily, until we get better. Until we fix things. Just until. No, my father cut in. Not temporarily. I turned to him sharply. What do you mean? He swallowed. Lena, we can't take care of him anymore. My stomach dropped. My legs went weak. He deserves better, my father said quietly. He deserves a life. A chance. A future. My mother choked on her tears. You're the only responsible one, she whispered. You're the only one who ever was. The room blurred. My childhood dissolved in front of me. Every abandonment. Every disappointment. Every broken promise. And now. Now they were asking me to raise the child they never raised properly themselves. To save him. To save them. To save everyone. Except me. The decision that would shape everything. I stared at the floor. At the scattered bills. At the empty bottles. At the broken promises. At the ghosts of who they used to be. Then my eyes drifted toward the hallway. where a small figure stood. My brother. Peeking out silently. Eyes wide. Afraid. Confused. Listening. And suddenly, I knew. My revenge wasn't going to be loud. It wasn't going to be cruel. It wasn't going to be petty. It was going to be righteous. Powerful. Permanent. But not against my brother. Never against him. Against them. Against the people who created this mess. I took a breath. Looked at both of them. And said the words that would set everything in motion. If I take him. Nothing goes back to the way it was. Their faces drained of color. Because they knew exactly what I meant. I wasn't offering help. I was offering consequences. For them. For the first time in their lives. Have you ever said a sentence that felt like it didn't just leave your mouth, but carved itself into the air? A sentence that wasn't a threat, wasn't a kindness, but a line in the sand? That's what it felt like when I told them. If I take him, nothing goes back to the way it was. Those words changed everything. My mother froze mid-sob. My father's jaw clenched. My little brother's eyes widened from the hallway corner. Because they all knew the truth. If I took him. If I stepped in. If I became the adult they refused to be. I wasn't just helping. I was taking control. And addicts hate losing control more than anything. The silence after everything. My father finally broke the quiet. What do you mean by that? I mean, I said, if I take him, I take him. Permanently. Not temporarily. Not until you get better. Not until your next relapse. Not until you spiral again. Permanently. My mother's eyes went wide. P permanently? But he's our son. I nodded slowly. And I am your daughter. Their faces crumbled. You weren't parents to me, I continued. But I will be a parent to him. And I won't put him through what I went through. My father looked stunned. You want full custody? Not want, I whispered. Need. If you truly want what's best for him, then yes. His shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. My mother shook her head violently. No. No, you can't take him. He's my baby. He's. Mom, I said softly, he deserves stability. You can't provide that. She sobbed harder. I can try. I stepped closer. You had 12 years to try. She collapsed into her hands again. The truth they never wanted to face. My father rubbed his temples, shaking. Lena, we're not losing our child. You already lost him, I said gently. You just haven't admitted it yet. He looked at me like the truth hit him straight in the gut. And then, he whispered something I didn't expect. You're right. My mother gasped. What? He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on me. She's right, he repeated. We can't do this. We can't raise him like this. We can't ruin another child. My mother's voice cracked into hysteria. You're giving up our son. He turned toward her. No. I'm giving him a future. She grabbed his shirt. And what about me? What about us? What about our family? He pulled her hands off of him. This is the family we created, he said calmly. With addiction. With lies. With neglect. We can't pretend anymore. She collapsed to the ground, wailing. My brother stepped out from the hallway then. Quietly. Slowly. Scared. His pajamas were rumpled. His hair messy. His eyes red. Lena, he whispered. I went to him immediately. Knelt down. Opened my arms. He ran into them. He didn't run to them. He ran to me. And that moment, That single, tiny moment told every truth that had been hidden for years. The plan I never thought I'd make. I held him and whispered, "You're safe. I promise." My mother's cries quieted to sniffles. My father leaned against the wall, defeated. "We'll sign whatever you want," he said. "Just, don't let them take him away." "I won't," I said. "But you won't either." His voice broke. "We know." My mother suddenly sat up. Her voice calmer. Colder. Calculated. "If you take him," she said slowly, "you'll have to help us too." I straightened. "No," I said. "I won't." Her eyes hardened with a familiar poison. "You're selfish." I almost laughed. "Selfish?" I repeated. "I've given you everything. My time, my money, my emotional strength, my childhood, my graduation day. And you call me selfish because I won't keep sacrificing myself for your mistakes?" She glared. "You owe us." I shook my head. "I owe him." My brother held me tighter. The dangerous truth behind their help. My father pulled out another stack of papers from the coffee table. "I didn't want you to see these," he muttered. He handed them to me. Collection notices. Eviction warnings. Credit card cancellations. Loan defaults. 3 accounts in negative balance. Legal threats. And worst of all, a notice from Child Protective Services. My breath caught. "You were reported?" I whispered. My father nodded shamefully. "Someone called them. A neighbor, maybe. Or a teacher. They saw how things have been. And you didn't tell me?" He looked down. "I didn't want you to think we were terrible parents." My throat burned. "You are terrible parents," I whispered. "But terrible doesn't mean unfixable." My mother's guilt flickered, then vanished. "We can fix this," she insisted. "If you help us." I stood slowly. "This isn't about you anymore." She blinked. As if the idea of not being the center of the universe physically shocked her. The social worker calls. My phone suddenly buzzed. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. "Hello?" "Hello, is this Lena?" a woman asked gently. "This is Marissa from Child Protective Services. We've been trying to reach you. Your parents gave us your number." My heart pounded. "Yes. I'm here. What's going on?" She sighed. "I was actually about to visit your parents' home this evening. An anonymous report suggested that your younger brother may be in an unsafe environment." I glanced around the room. At the empty bottles. The filth. The chaos. The brokenness. She didn't need to come. I had already seen enough. "I'm here with him," I said. "And you're right. He's not safe." My mother shrieked. "Don't you dare say that. Not to them." The social worker's voice stayed calm. "Lena, are you willing to act as his temporary guardian while we investigate?" My answer came out before I could think. "Yes." My mother screamed. My father closed his eyes. My little brother squeezed my hand. The breaking point. The social worker sighed with relief. "Thank you. I'll file the emergency paperwork." We hung up. My mother stormed toward me. "You liar. You manipulator. You thief. You're stealing my child." I stepped back. He stepped behind me. And my father stepped in front of her. "Enough," he snapped. "Stop blaming her. We did this. We destroyed this family. Now let her save what's left." My mother stared at him like she didn't recognize him. Then she whispered something that chilled the room. "You always loved her more." He froze. Then he whispered the truth she never expected. I loved the one who acted like a daughter. Her face contorted with a scream that didn't escape her lips. Because she knew. She lost. Not because I took something. But because she threw everything away. The last sentence I said that night. I gathered my brother's small backpack, packed some clothes, and held his hand. My father watched with a mixture of sorrow and relief. My mother sat on the floor, shaking, whispering, "No, no, no," like a wounded animal. Before I left, I said one final sentence. If you want to see him again, you get help. Real help. Rehab. Therapy. Accountability. No more lies. My father nodded instantly. My mother looked away. We stepped out of the house. My brother hugged me tight. Are we going home? He whispered. Yes, I said softly. Now we are. But the story doesn't end with me taking him. Because 3 weeks later, in the courtroom, in front of the judge, in front of my parents, something happened that no one expected. Something that sealed the fate of our family forever. Something that turned my no into a permanent new beginning. Have you ever stood in a courtroom where the truth becomes a weapon? Where memories become evidence? Where childhood pain becomes a case file? Where decisions are made that can redefine a family forever? That was me. 3 weeks after I took my brother home. 3 weeks of him sleeping without fear. 3 weeks of him eating real food. 3 weeks of him doing homework beside me while I filed documents. 3 weeks of him laughing for the first time in months. And 3 weeks of our parents spiraling, or pretending not to. This was the day everything would be decided. Whether he stayed with me. Whether he returned to them. Whether they would finally face consequences. Whether my childhood would repeat itself. Or end. The courtroom atmosphere. The courthouse smelled like old paper and cold air, a scent that felt too familiar. I stood with my brother's small hand in mine. He wore a neat shirt and a nervous expression. My father sat on the other side of the room. Calmer. Cleaner. Sober looking, but pale and tired. He didn't meet my eyes. He kept his hands folded in his lap, shoulders slumped, the weight of decades resting on him. My mother sat beside him. Hair unbrushed. Eyes wild. Angry. Resentful. She kept glaring at me like I had stolen something from her. Like I was the villain. Like my entire existence was a betrayal. But her anger didn't reach my heart anymore. I had replaced their bitterness with purpose. The social worker's report. The judge walked in. Everyone rose. He sat. We all followed. Let's begin, he said, flipping through the folder containing our lives. The social worker, Ms. Marissa, rose first. She spoke clearly, professionally, but compassionately. Your Honor, the minor, Jacob, has been living with his older sister for 21 days. In this time, he has demonstrated improved sleep patterns, stable emotional behavior, regular school attendance, and no reported incidents of distress. My mother scoffed loudly. The judge raised an eyebrow. Ms. Marissa continued. We conducted 3 unannounced home visits. Lena's home environment is clean, stable, and safe. She provides healthy meals, helps with schoolwork, and shows a consistent ability to meet his emotional needs. My heart thudded. Then she turned slightly toward where my parents sat. As for the parents, during my visits, concerns were noted. She didn't sugarcoat it. Evidence of alcohol misuse. Financial instability. Legal disputes. Neglected bills. Signs of emotional volatility. My mother slammed her hand on the desk. That's not true. We were doing better before she came and lied. The judge stared at her calmly. Ma'am, you will remain silent unless spoken to. My mother gritted her teeth and sank into her seat. My father sighed deeply. When asked if they were pursuing rehabilitation, the social worker added, the father expressed willingness. The mother did not. My mother crossed her arms defiantly. Because I'm not an addict, she barked. She's exaggerating to steal my child. The judge turned toward her. Ma'am, please, us your voice inside. All she wants is revenge, my mother shouted, pointing at me. She's always been jealous. She's lying. The judge tapped his pen. Do you have evidence of that? She froze. Her mouth opened. Closed. Silence. Very well, the judge said. Proceed. My turn to speak. The judge turned toward me. Miss Lena, he said gently, you may speak. My palms were sweating, but my voice felt steady. I love my brother, I began. He's the most important person in my life. I don't want to take him away from a family. I want him to have a family. A safe one. My father looked down. My mother rolled her eyes. I continued. When they asked me for money, I said no. For the first time in my life, I said no. And then I learned the truth, the addiction, the debts, the CPS report, the instability. I looked at the judge directly. I'm not here because I want revenge. I'm here because he deserves better than what I grew up with. My vision blurred, but I didn't let tears fall. I collapsed at my graduation, I said quietly. They didn't come. They didn't even know. I woke up in a hospital alone. The courtroom went still. And I'm not angry at that anymore, I said. I'm here so my brother never has to experience that kind of loneliness. I sat down. My hands trembled. But my heart didn't. My father speaks, and breaks. The judge nodded toward my father. Sir. My father stood slowly. I won't lie, he began. I made mistakes. A lot of them. I was weak. I didn't protect my daughter. I didn't give my son the home he needed. My mother glared at him like he was betraying her. He didn't look at her. I tried to quit drinking on my own, he said. It didn't work. But I've been sober for 10 days. I've been going to meetings. I'm trying. My chest tightened unexpectedly. Honesty. Finally. He looked at me. And for the first time in my entire life, he apologized in public. I failed you, he whispered. And I'm sorry. You deserved a better father. My throat tightened. Then he turned to the judge. If she can take care of him, if she can give him what we can't right now, then give him to her. My mother gasped like she'd been stabbed. My father sat down. Hands shaking. Head bowed. He was broken. But broken in the way people become right before they rebuild. My mother's meltdown. The judge turned to my mother. Ma'am, would you like to speak? She stood so fast the chair scraped loudly. I am not giving up my son, she shouted. She is manipulating you. Manipulating all of you. This is all her fault. The judge looked unimpressed. Your fault? He asked calmly. She jabbed a finger at me. She stole money from us. She abandoned us. She lied to CPS. She reported nothing, the social worker cut in firmly. The call was anonymous. My mother's face fell. She looked lost. Cornered. Panicked. And then she said the sentence that ended everything. I would rather see him in foster care than with her. The room went silent. Completely. My brother's small hand tightened around mine. The judge stared at her. Coldly. That, he said slowly, is one of the most concerning statements I've ever heard a parent say. She realized her mistake too late. Her face crumpled. She sank into her seat. Muttering. I didn't mean. I was angry. The judge raised his hand. No further explanation needed. My father covered his face in shame. The final decision. The judge stacked the papers. Took a deep breath. Then read the words that ended a chapter of my life. And began a new one. Given the evidence presented, temporary full custody of the minor will be granted to the older sister, with potential for permanent custody pending parental rehabilitation. My mother gasped. My father nodded slowly. My brother squeezed my hand tighter. The judge continued. The parents will have supervised visitation only. The mother must complete a rehabilitation program before any unsupervised visits are considered. Failure to comply will result in termination of parental rights. My mother screamed. You can't do this. You can't take him. Security stepped forward. My brother hid behind me. The judge ignored her. Court adjourned. The final twist, and the true revenge. Outside the courtroom, my father approached me. Slow. Broken. But clear-headed. Lena, he whispered. I braced myself. But he didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't ask for anything. He said one sentence. Take care of him, the way I should have taken care of you. My breath caught. He continued. I'm going to rehab. Real rehab. I'm going to fix myself. Not for me. For him. Then he said something that stunned me. And for you. It was the closest thing to love he'd ever given me. He walked away. My mother? She refused to look at me. She stormed off, screaming into her phone, blaming everyone but herself. Her fate was sealed, not by me, not by revenge, but by her own choices. 1 year later. My brother lives with me full-time now. He's happy. He's safe. He laughs. He plays soccer. He sleeps through the night. My father? He completed rehab. He goes to meetings. He sees my brother every other weekend, supervised at first, now unsupervised. He apologizes often. He tries. He learns. He heals. My mother? She never entered rehab. She lost visitation rights. She still blames everyone else. She hasn't seen my brother in almost a year. And me? I walk across a different stage now. A stage of my own making. A life not built on their choices, but on my strength. They didn't show up for my graduation. But that collapse? It taught me something priceless. Sometimes the people who break you are the ones you must walk away from, to finally rise. And saying no didn't destroy my family. It saved the only part worth saving.